What's up, nerds? So I was hard at work this morning perusing Instagram and I stumbled across a wicked meme. Now this was a meme of such monumentally epic proportions that I just felt compelled to share it with you guys. So this is the lifter's journey from beginner to intermediate to advanced. So do whatever works best to you, insert wall of text here, and then back to do whatever works best for you. Coming essentially, sort of, full circle. So we're going to take a journey today from beginner to intermediate to advanced. Now, as a beginner, pretty much everything works. You go into the gym, you basically do whatever you want to, and it works. So do whatever works best for you is essentially the same as saying, do whatever you want. Do whatever feels good. Do whatever you enjoy. Just train how you want to train. And beginners often have a sort of sense of ambivalence because, you know, if they go over and do barbell bench or dumbbell bench or chest flies or incline flies or decline or more machines, it's all going to grow the chesticles. Now, eventually this beginner progresses from a beginner to intermediate. And usually this is from stumbling across a system. Could be strong lifts, could be starting strength, could be calisthenics, could be copying enhanced lifters on Instagram. There are many ways to progress from beginner to intermediate. It's not particularly difficult because, again, pretty much everything works. The trouble is, usually they romanticize this first system that they have used. They put it on a pedestal.
You are putting
program
on this pedestal. You're just building the
program.
Man.
What are you even talking about? Building
Program.
What does that mean?
You making the
Program.
into this great big Greek goddess named Pussalai.
They think that this is the way, that this is the optimal way to make gains or to gain strength or whatever for every single person. But this is absolutely not the case because there's a good deal of inherent variability when it comes to humankind. But they have this dogmatic way of thinking, so they can't even wrap their head around the idea that this might not be optimal for other people, let alone the idea that it might not have been optimal for them. If you want to piss off an intermediate, tell them that what they did to become an intermediate might not have been optimal. Because they don't know, because there's no A/B testing, again, because everything worked on their journey from beginner to intermediate. And usually these intermediates have a very, very narrow focus. So if they're a science-based intermediate, they're probably spending more time on PubMed than actually lifting. They probably follow Jeremy Etienne, and they're the kind of people who ask me to supply a study for every damn thing that I say. They fell into the starting strength cult, let's just call it what it is. They think that fives are somehow magical and way better than sets of 4 or sets of 6, which doesn't make any sense at all. If you replaced starting strength with trap bar deadlifts, incline dumbbell bench press, and front squats, it would basically do the same exact thing. And they might say stuff like,
and you are a pussy.
Or they might say stuff like,
P in RPE means pussy.
And because whatever method you do first in your lifting career is always going to work, these people are literally falling in love with their newbie gains. And this is basically like falling in love with your high school sweetheart. Yeah, she made you feel good, but there's probably someone better out there for you, statistically speaking. And so people really do romanticize certain exercises, certain rep ranges, certain systems or methodologies or ways, and just realize that this is almost all marketing. It's almost all marketing. You have some kind of system that might be good, and you package it. You put it all together, and then you sell that. It's easy to digest, it's easy to fall in love with, but it's also sort of inherently bullshit. Okay, because it's saying that this is the way. Whereas a truly advanced lifter realizes that there is not just the way. By this time, you've been around the block, you've seen a lot of different lifters using many different systems and all getting fantastic results. And so you have to realize there are many ways. And so that's why, as an advanced lifter, you've sort of come full circle. And so personal preference, individual variability, sustainability, longevity, just enjoyment of the training is now something that an advanced lifter is going to prioritize, especially if they're a coach. If you have a coach and they sell you on the way, they're almost certainly full of shit. And you'll see this in the science-based community as well. An intermediate way of thinking, they might find a study to support their system and ignore everything else. Or they might say something very vague like, oh, well, there's science on both sides. You know, there's a flat earth theory and there's also a round earth theory. We don't really know. We kind of do, though. Or they might not disclose the fact that n equals 500 or n equals 1,000 has variability. And you see this in the actual data if these people would actually bother to look at that. There's a huge variety of responses to the actual protocol in the study. You're just seeing the average. And people like BioLane, people like Geoff Nippard, they are intellectually honest. Because usually after they reference a study, they'll say something like, well, this is just on average. Or you still have to try it to see if it works for you. Because the lifter's journey is n equals 1. You have to find what works for you. And that's going to require a lot of personal trial and error. Not just latching on to your high school sweetheart and thinking that is the only way to progress. Because it's probably not. Usually beginners will underthink their training, while intermediates will overthink their training, sometimes on an almost ridiculous scale. The most common answer that I give to people DMing me random questions on Instagram is, it doesn't matter. Like, what are the differences in activation of a single dumbbell pullover or a double dumbbell pullover? Doesn't fucking matter, dude. Like, it really, really does not matter. Whereas if you're advanced, often a lot of the stuff that you worried about as an intermediate, you slowly realize that it doesn't really matter. Okay, so if you're advanced, you're probably going to be focusing on choosing the right movements, performing them well, progressively overloading, getting in plenty of sleep, de-stressing, getting in a sufficient number of calories, whether you're doing, whatever with your diet, enough protein, enjoying your training, being consistent, and that's about it. Okay, past that, it's delving into stuff that probably doesn't actually matter very much. So keep this in mind as you progress on your journey from beginner to intermediate to advanced. Remember, it's an infinite game. And a lot of people, they drop off. There is no end to the lifter's journey. Okay, yeah, I guess when you die, it's over. But before that, it's an infinite game. So you have to keep in mind that enjoyment and sustainability are just as important as what is optimal on paper, which often isn't even optimal. So one of the main goals of training is to keep training, to stay consistent, to stay motivated, to stay injury-free, just to keep showing up and working hard. That is going to be what actually determines your progression, not some weird variation that targets a specific muscle group slightly better. All right, that's all for today. Like, share, subscribe, slap around that notification bell thingy, and grab a copy of my book. It's going to help a lot on your lifter's journey. All right, peace.
Big ass titties.